what's up, everybody? I'm outside. It's gorgeous. Happy summer. All right, let's get this party started. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Okay, cool. Everything's working. I'm so excited to talk with you. It feels like it's been way too long. Okay, let's do this. Hey, this is Natalie Griffin, the Naughty Shaman, coming at you live from the Naughty Shaman recording studios, which tonight happened to be the beautiful front yard. I hope you can hear the birds chirping. I am going to keep my voice loud so that the wind doesn't interrupt all the fun. And it's summer and it's delightful. And gosh, Connecticut in the summer is one of the most beautiful things. It's warm and green and there's grapevines wrapped all around the trees out here, and it is quite lovely. And I'm so happy to be with you tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Okay, so I'm super pumped because a lot of you are giving me ideas for podcasts, and I so appreciate that. Please send me an email at natalie@naughtyshaman.com. You can find me on Facebook at the Center for Shamanic Arts. But we love your ideas, and this is actually an idea that is coming from a listener, Catherine, and she was like, you know, one of the things that I would love for you to talk about is, what do you do when it feels like the universe doesn't have your back anymore, that you're just floating around out there and all that good juju and all that support and magic and synchronicity has vanished? How do you get your faith back? Whew. And I was emailing with her for a little bit because, gal, I get that. I get that feeling. Like, I know that feeling of wondering, is this for real? I know that place of self-doubt. I know that place of doubting in the great cosmic game of it all. Because science can never prove magic and synchronicity. And so there's this space in our world for doubt that we've gotten on the right path, that it's worth it, that our dreams are real, and that anything can happen. And so what I want to talk with you all tonight is about what to do when it feels like the universe doesn't have your back anymore. And I'm going to tell you some personal stories. So we're going to get behind the scenes and the ugly side of the Naughty Shaman. So put your seatbelt on. We're getting into Truthy McTruth land. So when the universe, it feels like it doesn't have your back, it can be one of the loneliest places. In fact, most people, I think, go through their entire lives not understanding what it feels like, that hope and that trust in that things are gonna work out. I think most of us are born without that, and we're born into this like super volatile, scary world, and we don't know if anything's gonna work out. And so most people operate their entire lives from that place of fear. But if you are listening to this podcast, then you are someone who has said, no, wait a minute. I want to do a life that's more awake, more alive. And you've stepped on a healing journey, a spiritual awakening, a path of enlightenment. It has a million different names. But you've stepped into this space where you're saying, I don't want to conduct my life from fear. I want to make my choices based on something else. Maybe it's mission, maybe it's love, maybe it's your soul's gut feeling, but you don't want to base all the decisions on fear. And so during that time, you usually will get a taste of all of the magic, and I think the universe does that to us when we're beginners. There's magic after magic after magic, and you meet somebody and it clicks, and then you're opening a business, and then there's that, and oh my God, can you believe that your house sold? And there are all these wonderful things. I did a fire ceremony, and then I met the person that I wrote down on the paper. I can't even believe it. And so we'll have periods of our lives where the synchronicities are strong, when we're in the flow, when we are truly partnered and co-creating with spirit, with God, with the universe. And then, my loves, if you stay on the path, you will hit not only plateaus, but pits of despair. And I think that's what Catherine and I were talking about when we were emailing, is that time when it feels like I've been doing the healing work, I've been praying the prayers, I've been doing the ceremonies, I've been eating vegan and praying the mala or praying the, Mother Mary, whatever it is. And still, life is super hard. I'm just like pausing for a moment because that touches my heart, and I know that many of you right now are going through that. because I talk to you at the center, and I talk to you on the phone, and I see you at the grocery stores, and I see you in my life, and I see my life. And I know that place of, I feel like I'm doing everything right. When is it going to break my way? And so I'm going to tell you a couple of stories kind of about what I'm going to call the spiral. There's this like downward spiral, and it starts like a very innocent dance around just question asking, concern, and it very quickly can take us down the rabbit hole into despair. And so I want to outline that process because I think it's important to understand it so that when we talk about how to get out of it, the steps make more sense, okay? So here is first kind of the step down into that spiral of doom. And it goes usually a little bit like this. You'll be cruising along in life, and something that you wanted to happen didn't happen. There's a massive disappointment. Maybe you had a dream for your business, and that dream is actually going to be 10 times harder than you thought and might not even come to pass. Maybe you thought this relationship was it and it was going to be awesome, and then it came to pass that that was not the case. So sometimes what can trigger this downward spiral is a disappointment. Sometimes what can trigger the downward spiral is this idea of a setback, of like we were going so strong and so fast, and by leaps and bounds we were making change and feeling good, and then the leaps and bounds stop. And we've kind of gotten it in our head that, oh, this is normal, leaps and bounds. And then it slows down and we feel like, wow, there's something wrong here. So those are the two most common ways that I see people start to go down into the spiral: the disappointments, when things, expectations are not met. And then also this time, it's all about, I guess, expectations that are not met, which is why the Buddhists have so much written about how to live in a place of non-expectation. So the disappointment will be the beginning of it. What that triggers for most of us is some often ancient fear or belief system to be in place, and it's a protective mechanism for us. And it's some belief system that no longer serves us, that we've probably worked on and let go of through therapy or shamanic healing or coaching, but it comes back like with a vengeance when we get this place of disappointment. So when the expectations aren't met, old beliefs and fears can be triggered. And I'm going to give you an example of that from my own life, my own messy, beautiful human life. I remember about 1.5 years ago, I had made a decision, and the books were supporting it for the business, that I needed to make some changes, and I wanted to grow the business in a way that we hadn't done it before. And so the vision was getting crafted a little bit differently than it had been historically. And I was so fired up about this mission, and I was so fired up about everything. And I remember I told the team, and about half were like, right on, and the other half were like, what the hell, that's terrible, I don't want to be a part of it. And so that disappointment, shock, I thought everyone would be so excited with me, but that moment started the downward spiral. And even though my head was going, it's okay, you know, you can't please everybody, and all the Oprah things that we learned we're supposed to think, there was something in my guts that was like, warning, warning. And so all of these fears came up for me about old things, you know, old things like, well, clearly I'm not a good business person. Clearly I'm not good enough. Clearly I'm not going to be able to do this. Clearly I don't have any good ideas. Clearly I'm worthless. And it didn't take long. It took like maybe 24 hours for me to get all the way down into that place of scratching that old wound of worthlessness. So that, when you hit that feeling and those old beliefs and you're like, yeah, there it goes, what can happen is they're so active in our energy system that you begin to get, you know, karma goggles on. So these old beliefs of like, I'm worthless, go on our little eyeballs, just like beer goggles, except for worse. And the karma goggles go on of I'm worthless. And then all of a sudden, everywhere you start to look in the world, that belief, you get more evidence that that belief is true. So then you're like, wow, my bank account shrunk in half. See, told ya, worthless. Oh, that person doesn't want to pay me for another 60 days, huh? Worthless. Oh, this is happening in my life. Somebody just broke up with me. Oh, worthless. And everywhere you look, every situation begins to reinforce that old painful belief, which then takes you down deeper into the bottom of that spiral. And after that, there's this place of resignation of like, yeah, I'm worthless, I don't have anything to offer. Why try? Why make a podcast? Why write a blog? Why redo my website? Why talk to anybody about my vision anymore? Why do anything? Because it's not gonna work. And when you get down to that place of resignation, it starts to get sticky and painful, and bitterness can start to set in. And a little F you to the world can sometimes come online for people, or it implodes and it goes like F you on the inside. And then there's this terrible place in resignation where we feel like we have no choice. There's no choice. Can't go forward, can't go back, I'm stuck here, and I might as well just get used to it. When we as human beings feel like we have no choice, that is the kiss of despair. That is when everything starts to fall apart. All of our forward momentum stops. It's like the tank runs out of gas, our energy system goes dormant, we don't have the available energy to create what we want to create because we've gotten into this pit of despair. So that is a place where often when we feel like we have no choice, we go to numbing behaviors. We'll surf Instagram for 6 hours at a time. We'll, tell ourselves that we're just reading interesting videos and catching up on the news and learning some self-development, and we'll go down the rabbit hole of social media. We'll do other numbing things like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Some of my favorite things, right? And we use them and abuse them in a way because we want to escape this feeling of hopelessness, of choicelessness, because that's a place of powerlessness. And as Caroline Meese describes so well in her book, The Anatomy of Spirit, to actually make change in our own lives, we have to come from a place of personal power. And when we get into our brains that we have no choice, that we are the victims of life and circumstance, and there's no way out, then we have absolutely given all of our power away to fear. So, I don't know if you can relate to that. I can relate to that in a couple of different arenas in life. I told you a little bit about the business, how quickly I spiraled down into a place of despair and inactivity and felt like I had no choice. And I can think of relationships where I've hit that spiral, where I thought it was going left, it went right, and it was like, boom, there it is. I'm going to be alone forever. That old fear that my brain knows is not necessarily true, and it doesn't even really matter, but that there's some primordial fear that gets triggered in us. And we all have our own, but they're usually around worthlessness and alone. And that seems to be a really common bottom to the well here in the West. So, what do? How do you get out of the pit of despair? How do you get out of this place of hopelessness and choice? I'm gonna tell you, and I'm so excited because I love the last action item. There's 5 steps that I got. And these are like the naughty shaman's tried and true ways to get out of a funk when you're down in a hole. And you got to put your big girl pants on or your man boots on, and you got to start climbing. The first step is like the hardest. And you can do these steps with a coach. You can do these steps with me, one of us at the center. You could do these steps and coach yourself. But these steps are critical. And the very first step is sometimes the hardest for people, because I got a secret for you. Don't tell anybody. Some people, not you, but some people are super committed to their misery. Some people are super committed to feeling bad, to being stuck. And no matter what, their viewpoint will not change from that viewpoint. Now, as a shaman, we value being able to look at any situation from multiple viewpoints. So sure, one viewpoint is you're worthless, you're stuck, you have no choice. That's one of possibly 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 viewpoints on this current situation. So what the first step is you gotta be willing to step out of the story and recognize it as a story. That it isn't the capital T truth. It feels like it's truth because, again, you've got the karma goggles on, you got all this evidence that you're worthless, but it's not actually true. It's just this old belief has come to the surface of your energy field and it's going, heal me, heal me. And so what it'll do is call in experiences into your energy field that'll actually hurt and push on that wound until you can't take it anymore. So you have no choice but to heal this idea that you learned that you're worthless. It's just something that you learned, though. It's not capital T true. No matter how many people may have told you that, no matter how many times you may have felt like that, it's not fundamentally true, because fundamentally who we are at our core being is this luminous thing that comes from somewhere mysterious and magical. I mean, where were we before we were born? So many legends about that. It all kind of revolves around the light. We were just this energy, this ball of pure, beautiful light. Heaven, all these places, nirvana, we come from the guff. There's so many legends about where we come from. That's our essence. It's still our essence, even though we have these weird squishy bodies now. So the first step is the hardest, and it's this idea that you have to be willing to unhook from what you think is true, to unhook from the only one way of looking. There's a little bit of surrender involved in that. And like I said, some people are super committed to their way of looking at things, that other people suck, the world is mean, I'm never gonna make money, work is hard, life is hard. Some people are pretty committed to those beliefs and don't wanna shift it. They don't wanna rock the boat. And I get it. It's scary to rock the boat, because then you have to take full accountability for your life. And that's step 2, my friends. So after you are willing to unhook from the story, the second thing you gotta do is you gotta accept it. This is what it is. I got $10 in my bank account. I got 5 people who are pissed at me, 2 people that believe in me, and that's it. It is what it is, and it's not what it's not. And that's it. And we stop the storytelling around it. It's just what it is, the facts. What you have in your bank account, who's supporting you in the vision, who's not supporting you in the vision, who's gonna run with you into this life and create something magical with you, who's not. Those are just the facts. It is what it is, and it's not what it's not. Period. In that place of acceptance, too, you have to accept responsibility for creating a new way forward, for claiming a new viewpoint and creating a new possibility for yourself. So that all comes from a place of acceptance. When we're in the place of resignation, we are hosed, my friends, because that's a place of like, I've got no choice. I'm in a box. I'm going to be paralyzed and just drink and watch TV until I die. And hopefully I win the lottery. Hopefully some man will come and save me. Hopefully some woman will come and save me, make me happy. And we haven't fully accepted responsibility for our own lives at that point. And we're so stuck in our story that we can't even see that there might be another possibility. So step 1, step out of the story. Step 2, accept the facts and responsibility for making the shift. And then step 3, and this is my favorite, and I got this really clear question from my coach, Croft Edwards, who I meet with every Thursday, 7 a.m. Woo, Croft, love you. And because I'm very committed to growing, and I can't do it by myself. I'm better in tribe. And so I've got a SWAT team of people who support me, and he's one of them. And he asks me this question all the time, and I love it. He asks, Natalie, in this situation or in this moment, what do you care about most? What's your greatest care? And I love that question. It always like hits me like a rock between the eyes, and it makes me pause and ask, what is it I care about most here? You know, and when I was making this change in my business, I was so scared that no one was going to want to come with me. And some people were like, yeah, I don't want to come with you. And I was like, oh, I asked myself this question over and over and over again, and it always landed on what I care about is being available to more and more people so that they see how many choices they have for their own life to be happy. So they can learn the tools for co-creation. And I care about that. I care about the quality of our service. I care about our professionalism. I care about our ethics. That's what I care about. And so he always says this great thing, great, then align yourself with that. It's always so easy when you're listening to someone else's story. But this is the best way to support one another, is to have these moments with a great coach or a great friend who can hold enough sacred space for you, can hold your ugly, can hold your unraveling, can hold your rage and your fear and your terror, knowing that it's sacred and temporary and necessary to kind of move through, so that the truth can then be illuminated, or that space can be made for what's going to unfold next. That's a special kind of friend. That's a special kind of coach. You want someone that can hold your ugly. All right. So that was my ugly, and Croft got to hold it a whole bunch of times, and so did some of my closest friends. And I'm so grateful for you guys. So after you ask, what is it you care about? You know, what is your commitment to the world? That's when things really start moving. You've shifted the energy. I don't know if you can even hear it in the storytelling around that, but in a place of resignation, there's a box around you and there's no way out. As soon as you start lifting up your head, that possibility of maybe this isn't true, that there's another way to look at it, and then you ask, what do you care about? You start to get momentum and ambition to create that. You know, what do I care about? If this is what I care about, then what's the step I can take today? If this is what I truly care about, how can I better align myself with that? Who can come with me that would be better aligned with that? So those are the questions that move us forward instead of take us deeper down into the hole. So you need those good quality questions, and my favorite one is, what do you care about? What does your soul care about? What's your heart's desire? Not your mind, not your body, but that bone level soul. What do you care about? I love it. That's a great question. I think I'm going to write a journal about that tonight. So then after you get that clarity about what is it that you care about, what is your heart's desire, even a little clue is nice, then you have to change your body. Because when you're in a place of resignation, it looks a lot like crumpled and hinged over and protecting your heart. Your face can get tense, your shoulders can get tense, everything gets tight and twisted when you're in a place of resignation. And if you're in a place of resentment, then it gets like fisty and cranky and all kinds of stuff. But if you want to change your viewpoint, you gotta change how your body's moving. This is the field of somatic learning, or learning through the body and how it's positioned and moves. And so one of the first things I do after I've realized what I care about is I sit up straight, I get a little wiggly, and I move my body into a different shape that's usually chin up, eyes up, shoulders back, a little bit like Superman without the cape. And I start to breathe fresh air. And in that breathing of the fresh air, new horizons start to reveal themselves of a way forward, and new possibilities and avenues become available. And I'm no longer stuck in this box of no choice. Now I'm in a place of almost infinite possibilities. And that is such a place of hope. And hope is such an engine for us, especially those of us who are here knowing that we have some kind of purpose. Maybe we don't always know exactly what it will look like, but we know we're here for something greater than paying bills and wiping noses of little children. Those are beautiful things, but there's this other thing inside of us, this yearning for meaning. And hope is like the gasoline on that fire. And I worry a lot about hope because I lose hope. You probably wouldn't know that because you guys on social media see like this happy side of the naughty shaman, but I get hopeless. I have this place inside me where sometimes I get scared and it looks bleak, hopeless, and I can't find my way, and I'm in that box of resignation. And in this movement through the body, this is why people who do yoga feel better. They don't know why, but what they're doing is they're retraining their nervous system into a position of openness, and they're creating more space in their body for breath. And that sends more oxygen into the body, and therefore into the brain, and therefore your brain starts to wire differently and fire differently. It's beautiful. So after you change your body and you see all these choices up there, there's usually something that you're going to be called to make a commitment to. You know, today I'm going to commit to making that phone call. That's my first step. Today I'm going to take that risk and tell that person how I feel, come what may. Today I'm going to go into this meeting knowing that I'm not the enemy, that they're not the enemy, but that we're both seeking truth. Today I'm going to blank, and it's going to be the first step toward that new horizon. And by then, you're out of the pit. You're walking on flat, solid ground again, and you're out of that pit of despair. And that's when you remember that the universe actually never abandoned you. It had your back the whole time. Usually when we go spiraling down into that pit of hopelessness, it's because there's something still there to heal. There's never an accident. What I have found is over the years, still have this place of hopelessness I can find, but the pit has gotten shallower and the turnaround time is quicker. It used to take me down, my friends, for years. I wrestled with depression and anxiety for years sometimes. And now my turnaround time is anywhere between 20 minutes and 2 days. And I think that's been the longest time. If I'm sitting here reflecting on it, 2 days has been the longest time. I felt like my knees got knocked out from under me and I was, running around in my little square box of despair. That box got small and I can't linger there as long because I know how to get myself out and look up on the horizon and think about what I care about and why I'm here, who can support me. And then we go. And my last little bit of advice is, and this, it's not just how your body is, but it's also what we input into our brains. And so the TV shows we watch, the things that we read, the music that we listen to, these things can all influence us. So after you get out of the despair pit, I really love, and I have little talismans all over my house. People come to my house, they probably have no idea that almost every single thing that's in my house was either given to me by someone I care about, reminds me of someone I care about, is a talisman for something I care about. They're little talisman all over my house. Jewelry almost is always some kind of talisman for me, connects me to someone that I care about. And in that way, I remember and hold on to who I am and what it is I care about, that I'm here on purpose, that I'm here on mission. And even though I have these pits and weird feelings, that I'm still going in that direction and I'm not alone. So you need some kind of talisman. One of my favorites is you need a theme song. I've got a couple, and I think that I was talking to Gabriel Miguel, my awesome marketing person, and I think we're going to put it in the newsletter. But one of my most favorite songs is by Nako and Medicine for the People, and it's called Make a Change. And it's awesome. It is such like a powerful anthem of doing work, and even when it's hard, you keep going. Like, you don't give up, you don't quit. You're here to go and work hard and go where you need to go. And I love that. It never fails to just lift me right out so I can see all the infinite possibilities. There are a couple others that I'll probably type in the newsletter for you, or we can leave comments about what are your theme songs, because I know some of you have like a personal anthem out there. Another one I love, which is a weird one, but I was just listening to it earlier today. It came on, I had my music on shuffle, and it's by Lauryn Hill, and it's called Zion. And it's a song about her son being born and her being pregnant. But what I think about my kids, but I also think about what it is I care about most. And Zion, this idea and symbol of Zion calling, and Zion, and it's all for Zion. For me, a lot of that is Naughty Shaman, like this beautiful company that we're creating, like this. I'm so grateful this exists. This is my mission. This is my calling. And so hanging on to that is beautiful. So those are two recommendations I got to get you out of your funky funk. But the worst thing you can do is like put on sad songs. When you're deep down in the funk and you've started to realize, wow, I need to change my beliefs, you have to let go of the funk. Music is a great way to do that. So are crystals. Sometimes I have heart-shaped rocks that I find, and I'll carry those around. And if I find them when I'm with somebody, I'll carry those around too, so that I remember that I have choices and that I'm not alone. Sometimes there was one time where I just wrote the word choice on a rock in Sharpie, and I just carried it in my pocket. And it was during a difficult time where I was feeling hopeless and like I had no choice, and I had that reminder in my pocket to know that I always have a choice. We always have choices. The problem is when we don't feel like we have choices, it's a lot of times because we know the choice we have to make and it's terrifying. And so we'll tell ourselves, I got no choice, and we feel resignation instead of ambition to go make that brave choice. So that, my friends, is my little 6-step process to remember that the universe has your back. It's hard to lean into that because sometimes the evidence outside of our lives will say there's no support. But what it really is, and Marianne Williamson says this the best, that the outside world is constantly reflecting to us the state of our inner world. And so if the state of my inner world is not supporting me, if my thoughts to myself are that I'm worthless, my thoughts to myself are that I can't have a choice, my thoughts to myself are that I can't do this, then what ends up being reflected in the lives around us through those goggles is the same thing. So we see the world as we are. We don't see the world as what it is very often, unless you practice this practice. Almost everything, this is what my teachers, the old guys, would say, is that we are constantly seeing the world through our own perspective, and what we see all the time is about us. It's never about anybody else. It's never about anything else. It's constantly reflecting the state of our soul. So anyway, the universe has got your back. I'm going to tell you one more story about how I know this. And I'm old enough now to know this. You know, I'm somewhere around midlife, and it's interesting. Now I've had enough disappointments, enough heartbreaks, enough people have died, enough money has been lost, that what I have learned is that there are periods of our lives that are very sacred and sometimes very painful. And they're periods of our lives when things are removed and it seems senseless. People die, money leaves, you invest in something, it fails. There are times when we lose things that we believe are really important to us and that we can't live without. And that will set the despair spiral going. So those periods of time where it feels like the universe might be punishing us, or we might have lost our connection to God, are the times when I find now, looking back, is the times where the universe was doing me a solid. The universe was doing me a solid. The year I failed out of Kent State University, devastating, sent me into the spiral of despair for over a year. And what I learned is that because of that takeaway, a space was made open for me to get a job, make new friends, learn about myself, and reapply to college and get a 4-year degree from a different university that was better suited to me, where I found spiritual teachers. There were no spiritual teachers for me at Kent State University. And the universe made the situation of me being a complete nocturnal person, and I failed out of Kent State University in one semester. But that failure felt terrible, and I felt like I should have been forgiven and let back into Kent State. But it wasn't available to me. The universe was like, nope. Kent State was like, nope. Your grades were way too bad. And it felt like I was abandoned. But in hindsight now, I can see that I wasn't. The universe was doing me a solid. I can think of several relationships where I was like, this is as good as it's ever gonna get, and this is the only one for me. And then that person would decide I wasn't for them, and they would leave. And I was like, no, and the despair and the heartache and the worthlessness and the not lovable and all those old wounds would roar their ugly heads again. And then, in hindsight, somebody better came along, somebody better suited, and someone I could learn with and learn from came along. So I would posit that we are never abandoned by spirit. There's that beautiful poem that comes out of Christian mythology called Footprints. And I invite you to Google that. But it's essentially that, you know, God and you are walking side by side on the beach and there's two sets of footprints, and all of a sudden there's just one. And the person's like, dude, why'd you leave? God, it's when I needed you the most was when it was really hitting the fan, and there's only one set of footprints in the sand right there. And God simply says in the poem, my love, that's when I carried you. That's when I carried you. So, those are my thoughts about what you can do to reestablish your connection to the universe. There are going to be more and more and more podcasts about that, because I think a lot of people are wrestling with this right now out there. And there's so much chaos right now in the world. If you're watching the news, it can feel really overwhelming. And it can feel like sense and soul have been have left the building of this planet. But I invite you to go outside, unplug, go touch a leaf, look at a snapdragon. I've got snapdragons in my garden over there. And wonder at the beauty and perfection of nature. And if God is going to care about that snapdragon blooming on time, how is it going to forsake something as beautiful as you? How? It's completely impossible. Everything we look at is touched by spirit, and that includes you, my love. That includes you. So keep the faith. It's faith. It's not science. It's not factual. It's a faith. It's a faith in you. It's a faith in that you're not an accident. It's a faith in that there's meaning and purpose in this life, even when it's lost to us. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. And surround yourself with people who will help you do that. All right. I rambled long enough. It's been beautiful to talk with you tonight. I want to thank you so much for listening. It means the world to me. So we've got we're in the middle of really an exciting change that I cannot wait to tell you about. And we're going to have a whole bunch of new classes and offerings for you that's going to blow your mind. And I can't wait to tell you about that. But I'm sworn to secrecy right now because we have to do that for now. But in the meantime, join us. We've got some classes here in Connecticut. Hey, what's up? There's our neighbor. They're so nice here. We've got some classes here in Connecticut. And we have got a lot of programs coming up. And of course, we've got Dharma School coming up in the fall, in November. We're beginning the cycle again, and I'd love to have you join us where you can learn these techniques and many, many more. Many, many more, so that you can access your awesome and live it out loud. All right, people. Peace to you. And I will catch you soon. This is the Naughty Shaman signing off, where we like to keep the sacred a little wild and totally real. That was cool. Peace, beings. Bye.